Hey guys, I'm Glitter Valkyrie, and today we're going to try to plus 10 Legendary Hector. I have pulled on pretty much every banner that he has been on since his release, and mine is still plus 6, so I'm really hoping that we can get those last few copies today. So we will talk about all the characters on this banner as we go along, but let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so our plan for today is going to be to pull mostly green, and I might pull some blues too because I really do want some copies of Ephraim, but Hector is definitely my main objective. And I have talked a little bit about him before, but he's one of my favorites from FE7, definitely my favorite lord. And even though he may not be the strongest of all the legendaries, I absolutely love mine. I use him all the time. And I'm really hoping that we can get like 3 copies from this plus our spark. And oh my goodness, we got Purple Leon. I am so excited to see him. Okay, let's check IVs. And he is plus defense. I will absolutely take that. So when I saw who he was going to color share with on this banner, I was actually very, very excited because I am not someone who likes Fallen units very much, but Fallen Leon is my absolute favorite. I use him every single week in AR, and I would love to get some merges for mine. And I've never actually pulled like a super good IV one. I feel like that one that we just got was pretty decent. But I would really like plus attack, so if we can't get Hector, I would love to get more copies of Leon. And as for the other colors that we have on the... Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, why did I pull that blue? But that is a dream corn. Okay. All right, let's check IVs. And he is plus attack. That is really good. To be perfectly honest, I don't really use the one that I have, but regardless, that is null follow-up, so that is really, really good. So I might still pull some blues here and there, I don't know. I feel like greens are so hard to come by when you're looking for them that we'll probably end up pulling a good amount of blues. And I probably would go harder on that color, but Ephraim is color sharing with Dusel, and while Dusel is a character that I really, really like, I have one with optimal IVs, and I don't really feel like I need merges, and the fodder isn't like super fantastic. So if I get him, great, but I really want to focus on Hector as much as I possibly can. And I guess if we have a circle where we don't have either of those colors, maybe we would go for colorless next. I do have a pretty decently merged Robin. I honestly don't use mine all that much, but now she does have that rain skill, so that's decent. And she's also a pretty good character in her own right now. And she also shares with Ellie, and I still don't have Ellie after all this time. So I would be happy to get her too. And in red, we have Hreed, and we have Ryoma, and now Ryoma's really good, so that's great. But I don't particularly need either of those two, so we'll probably try and stay away from reds. But I guess that kind of covers all the characters on the banner, and we can go ahead and answer some viewer questions now. And as always, if I did not get to yours, I am so sorry. I will try to do it in a future one. And if you think of a question that you'd like to ask me, you could just leave in the comments with #question, and I will put your question on my list. So our first question today comes from Amy Jo, and there are a couple for me. And they are, what are your top 3 pairs in Awakening and 3 Houses? Who is your husbando? And do you play Smash, and who is your main? Okay, so for your first question about my favorite pairs, for Awakening, hands down my favorite is Chrom and Robin. I really like them as a pair. I also really like Olivia and Henry, but alternatively Olivia and Longku's really good. And I also really like Lissa and Vike, just so that you can have blonde Owain. I think he looks really good like that. And then as for 3 Houses, my favorite ships are Dimitri and Marianne. I love their support so much. I love Caspar and Hilda, and I also really like Byleth and Claude. I know it's boring, but I really like it. And then for your next question about my husbando, I have a few. I would have to say it would be Xander and Claude and Chrom. Those are the top ones for me. And lastly, your question about who I main in Smash. Well, I'm probably the most casual Smash player there is. I really haven't played in a very long time. But when I do play, I tend to use female Corrin quite a bit. I also really like Rosalina and Luma. Sometimes I'll play as Zero Suit Samus. I also like Lucina. And I tried to use Byleth, but I was never very good at her. So really, those are the characters that I use the most. But I'm not a very serious Smash player at all. But thank you for all those great questions. And the next one that we have today comes from Leon Brander. And they ask, name your favorite character from your least favorite Fire Emblem game and your least favorite character from your favorite Fire Emblem game. Okay, so my least favorite Fire Emblem game is Birthright, but there are a ton of characters that I do love from that game. And I would have to say my most favorite is probably Sakura, but I really also like Orochi too, and I'm hoping we can get a couple copies of her today. And then my favorite game is... Oh my goodness. I did not realize that Balthus was going to be on banners, so that is an amazing pull. So to finish up answering your question, my favorite game is FE7, and my least favorite character from that game is probably, oh gosh, I guess I would say Sonia. There are a lot of really terrible people in that game. Like Nurgle is not a very nice character, but I feel like he's very interesting, and for some reason I sort of like him. But I really could just never like Sonia just because she was so mean. So that would be my answer, but thank you for that very creative question. And the next one that we have today comes from Juji, and they ask, which game would you be the most excited to play as a remake? So if we're talking Fire Emblem, my most wanted remake is FE4, and if we're not talking Fire Emblem, I would have to, oh my goodness, we got another Leon, that is amazing. Okay, please be plus attack. And he is plus HP. One day we will get that plus attack. But getting back to this very lucky question from Juji about games that I would want to be remade, would love to see Golden Sun get a remake so that maybe one day we could finally get an answer to the ending of Dark Dawn. But the other game that I'd really love to see would be Tales of Symphonia. And that's just because that came out when I was a kid and I was very limited in the games that I could get. It was either like my birthday or Christmas or like games that I traded in at GameStop, which I totally regret now. But I never got a chance to play that game because my options were so limited and I always wanted to play it. So I do have a GameCube that works, but if they could remake it and make it easily accessible, I would absolutely love that. But thank you for that very lucky question. And we get a Nino. Okay, so I feel like we should pull this blue. Yes, let's pull the blue. And we will answer another one. And this comes from Yummy Detergent. And they ask, what are your favorite tracks from The Legend of Zelda? And also, what game do you think you've sunk the most hours into? Okay, so for Legend of Zelda songs, they are some of my favorite to listen to. But my favorite of all time has to be Gerudo Valley. I could listen to it all day. I love it. But I also really enjoy Dragon Roost Island from Wind Waker. I love the overworld theme from Spirit Tracks. And I also really like Zora's Domain. I feel like it's very, very relaxing. But there are so many other good ones, but those are the top ones for me. And then, oh my gosh. Ophelia Dusk. I am so excited to see her. She is such a fun character. And she can't break my pity, which is even better. All right, let's check IVs. And she is a very tanky Ophelia, but that is really, really great. Okay, so getting back to this super lucky question from Yummy Detergent, you asked about the game that I've sunk the most hours into. I would probably say that Faye is probably the game that I've spent the most time on just because, oh my gosh. We got Hector. I am so excited to see him. That's amazing. Okay, let's check IVs. And he is plus defense. So the funny thing is that almost every single Hector that I've ever pulled is plus defense, but you know what, maybe one day I'll get that plus attack on him. And getting back to this question from Yummy Detergent about game that I've sunk the most time into, probably Faye, just because I've played it for so many years and I'm not somebody who typically plays the game for years on end. But if we're not talking about a mobile game, the answer is probably Animal Crossing, because that was like my quarantine game. Like we couldn't go out and do, oh my goodness. We got another Hector. I am so happy to see him. Okay, let's check this one. And he is plus HP. So we really just need one more and then we can spark and be at plus 10. So we're just gonna keep our fingers crossed and we will keep going. So to finish up answering this extremely lucky question from Yummy Detergent about the game that I've sunk the most time into, other than Fae, it would have to be Animal Crossing because when we were like in the midst of quarantine, we could play that game, and so I could make like this big beautiful island, and I just spent so many hours playing that game. Sadly, I don't play anymore, but that was like the game that I sunk so many hours into last year. But again, thank you for that extremely lucky question. And the next one that we have today comes from Big Freckled Ears, and they ask, who is the least popular character that you want in the game? So I'm not sure if I'm even saying her name correctly, but I want Saint Elimine to be in the game as a mythic. We do have a picture of her, just like one of what she looks like, and she is like a cross between Sarah and Louise, and I would just love to see her as like a mythic healer in Fae. So that is like my most wanted character that'll probably never happen. But thank you for that great question. And let's go ahead and back out. And we will answer another one, and this comes from Giratina Light. And they ask, what do you think about getting Japanese dub for VAs with everything else in English in a future update in Fae? I would not mind if we were able to have access to different voice actors in different languages for different characters. I really didn't mind when they did that for, who did they do that for? I think they did it for Seiri. I really wouldn't mind doing that. It's not so much in this game that I would want to see that, but I would really like to see that in Genshin, because there are some characters that I have to have them in English, like Child and Zhongli, but there are other characters that I really like their Japanese voice actors. So if you could like toggle on and off for certain characters, I think it would be a great feature in that game, but also in Fae. But thank you for that great question. And the next one that we have today comes from MST Games, and they ask, would you like to see Effie return to 2D pixel art sprites like in Shadows of Valentia on the map instead of the 3D models that we currently have in Three Houses? So this is probably nostalgia speaking for me, but I love 2D art for maps, and I would love to see it return in a future game. I think they did a nice job in Three Houses, but I really like the look of the simplicity of a 2D map. And then when you get into the battle, having it turn to 3D, I like that too. But yes, I do like 2D, and I would love to see it in a future entry. But thank you for that great question. And we get a Hawkeye. So I think we're going to be silly and back out. I really want to get that final Hector. And let's go ahead and answer another one. And this comes from the Iggs, and they ask, if Larshel were to win CYL, what would you imagine her Brave alt being like? I don't think this... Oh my gosh! We got Ephraim. I am so excited to see him. That's amazing. All right, let's check IVs. And he is plus res. I have a plus HP one, so I'll have to decide which one I want to merge into, but that is amazing. And to get back to this lucky question from the Iggs, basically my only wish for any other type of Larshel is for her to have Latona. Because I feel like it's her canon weapon, she deserves to have it, and I would just love to see it in the future. But thank you for that very lucky question. Okay, so we are at our 40, so we will go ahead and spark for Hector. Oh my gosh, that's... You know what? I've never actually gone to spark on any of these remixes, so I've never seen this screen before. That is a lot of choices. But I am so glad that we can do this. Yay! You know what? I can't promise that I won't go back for that final copy, but for right now, I'm so excited that we have him at plus 9. And we got the thing. Okay, so we are going to stop for now, and I am so happy with how this went. We are almost at plus 10 for Hector, and we got some other amazing stuff too. So I am just hoping that you guys were just as lucky with your pulls. Again, thank you so much to everyone that submitted questions. I appreciate it so much. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.